You were serving breakfast as usual, and a few minutes helped you carry the dishes, but you did most of the work yourself. You made seaweed soup, grilled fish, rolled omelette, and rice, all his favorite foods. You didn't ask to do anything, but you wanted to keep busy to distract yourself from overthinking. Shava was already at the table, sitting at the head like always, dressed impeccably in his suit. Everything about him was too perfect, yet he remained silent. Minjae, his younger brother, was sitting opposite him. He had just arrived 2 days ago for some official things nearby and would be around for a month. Unlike Zhao, he had a more lax vibe about him. Dressed casually with his hair still damp, he wore that effortless smile that was always on his face. You placed the plate in front of him and were about to step back when he looked up at you. Oh, Nuna, you made this? This is seriously the best food I have had in months. Bro, you're lucky, huh? You didn't look at your husband because you already knew he wouldn't look up. As expected, he didn't even glance at his brother. He placed his chopsticks down halfway, wiped his hands, and stood up quietly. He walked away and you started clearing the half-eaten plate. In a few minutes he came back, adjusting his tie, still not looking at anyone. Then his eyes flicked to the clock on the wall. Minjae, it's 8:45. Isn't your meeting at 9? Better get ready. Yeah, yeah, I'm going. Minjae turned to you again before getting up. Thanks for the breakfast, Nana. Let's sit together tonight, yeah? If you're free. You just gave him a small smile. He watched you for a few seconds like he was trying to figure out something without being rude. I know him is the way he is, but you okay, Nuna? You just keep that little half smile you have basically copyrighted at this point. The one that says I'm fine and I gave up 2 months ago at the same time. He's not a bad man, just hard to reach. I figured he talks like he's allergic to his own voice. And okay, you almost laugh. Not a full laugh, but that tiny nose exhale type of laugh still counts. Be sure you're eating though. You didn't even sit down with us. I eat after. It's not like I'm not allowed or anything. I just don't feel like it. He took one last sip of the coffee and slept. Don't overwork yourself, okay? You nodded because what else are you supposed to do? Java was in his office just staring at the screen like he was working, but he wasn't really reading anything. His hand was on the mouse, scrolling for no reason. That's when the door opened with a small knock. Minjae walked in holding a file, looking way too casual for the suit he had on. Your meeting's over? Yeah, meeting's done. They just wanted updates on the port shipments and asked if next runs were still on schedule, nothing big. This isn't just business. You have got something else with this visit, am I right? Damn, you still read people like a sniper. How come that sharp instinct doesn't apply to your own wife? Did she say anything to you? Nah, but she doesn't have to. It's all over her face, young. She looks like she's surviving in that house, not living. You give her everything except the one thing she actually needs, presence. You're married, yeah, but it feels like she's just existing beside you. Shangok took a deep breath and leaned forward like he held the writer's spade carved into his chest. We both dragged into this marriage. It wasn't for love, it was for the business, for the name. I didn't want to make it worse by being overbearing. It's not distance, it's respect. I don't want her to feel trapped. You think staying quiet is helping? She looks like she's holding her breath around you. Enough, Minji. I don't hate her. I never have. I know what I'm doing. If she ever needs anything, she can ask. I'll do it gladly. Minji stood up tired, like trying to talk to a locked door for too long. He looked at his brother for a second, not as a pose, not as a myth in the underworld, but just as a man who didn't know his own heart. Yeah, maybe that's the problem. She won't ask you. She already knows you'll give her everything except yourself. He walked away and Jungkook rolled his eyes like it was just another pointless talk with his little brother, who felt too much and thought too loud. But he couldn't ignore the fact that Minji's words are crawling up on his skin. His eyes flicked towards the far wall, confused. His mind was pacing around something he couldn't name. What does she need that he hasn't already given? She eats well, sleeps in safety. No one dares look at her wrong. Hell, she could ask for the moon and he'd figure out how to pull it down. So what is it he is withholding? Respect? He gives that. Freedom? He never once told her what to do. Then what? And why did Minji sound like it wasn't just her who was suffocating, but him too? Chavo walked into the living room, loosening his tie, and one of the maids came over and took his suitcase. But before he could take another step, he froze, hearing that sound he hadn't heard yet, your laughter. He slipped into the room slowly, and his gaze swept the space until it settled on you. Curled upon the couch next to Minche with your head tilted back, one hand gripping your stomach as if laughter had stolen your breath away. And oddly, for just a second, he felt calm, like your laughter somehow put him at ease in a way nothing else could. And in between, your eyes suddenly drifted towards him, and everything stopped. The smile on your face vanished all at once. You stood up immediately, like muscle memory, like you were used to retreating. And all he could remember was the sound of your footsteps slipping away into the kitchen, and how fast the room turned back into the one he used to. Minji leaned back on the couch, resting one arm over the top, then slowly turned his head to look at Jungkook. He didn't smile or mock, just raised an eyebrow and gave him that kind of shrug that wasn't casual at all. It said everything, and for the first time in a while, Jungkook didn't know where to look. He came back downstairs for dinner, and the house had shifted back into the quiet mode. You were at the table, focusing on setting plates with the maids like nothing had happened an hour ago. He sat down without a word, picked up his chopsticks, and started eating. It tastes fine, maybe even better than usual, but his appetite wasn't the problem. Halfway through the meal, he cleared his throat, making both of you and Minche look up. Appa called me earlier. He wants me to hold a media gathering here at the house. It's going to be a full house. Everyone from the syndicates, inner circle, political friends, front company heads will be here. She nodded faintly, already knowing what that kind of night meant. Power games wrapped in tailored suits and expensive whiskey. Also, he said his daughter-in-law should be the main presence, represent the family, also mine. You were refilling Jungkook's glass, but your fingers tensed at the handle before you could stop it. The glass in your other hand slipped. It hit the floor and shattered, making the water spreading across the polished floor. You just froze and your heart kicked up, not because of the mess, but because of the weight behind those words. I'm sorry, I'll clean it up. But your mind wasn't on the glass, it was racing already. Who's the ailment? You? You were barely holding your place in this house, barely speaking full sentences to the man you were married to, and now you had to stand in front of a room full of cold, sharp-eyed men who measured respect in silence and glad. Yeah, you came from a mafia family too, but you had always stayed quiet behind the curtain, never asked to stand in the spotlight. This wasn't your thing, and your stomach had already begun to turn at the thought. Minche leaned forward, waving at the maids. It's okay, Nuna, you don't have to, they'll clean it up. You nodded quickly, still a little shaken, trying to piece together your face before anyone looks too closely. Minche glanced at Jungkook, who hadn't moved or said a word. His eyes were cold, unreadable like Holly's, and Minche looked at him like, really? That's all she gets? He shook his head, clearly annoyed, then stood up and walked off, muttering something under his breath, like talking to his brother was a waste of air. And you stood there confused, like why Minchie, who really liked dinner time, didn't finish the food. The eyes flicked towards Jungkook, expecting something, at least a glance, but he didn't give you that. Instead, he wiped his fingers with a napkin, stood up, and walked away. You blinked at the empty space where he had been sitting, and your chest tightened with something hot in it. Did he leave because of the glass? Was that it? Did it annoy him? The sound, the clumsiness, the fact that you didn't respond like the perfect mafia wife you were supposed to be. You stood slowly, smoothing your clothes, trying to keep your face steady while inside everything was spiraling. This wasn't a party, it was a parade of power. Whispered deals wrapped in polite smiles, notes that meant more than full conversations, and eyes that never stopped scanning. And you stood in the middle of it, dressed in something you wouldn't normally choose. Too fitted, too elegant, too not you. And yet it had Jungkook's mother's approval, so no one questioned him. If hands were cold, you kept them clasped tightly in front of you to hide the nerves. You had smiled more in the last 20 minutes that you had in months. Your cheeks were starting to hurt. Minjae hovered near the bar, keeping an eye on you like a protective younger brother. Jungkook, he was always in your peripheral vision with that same expression. He talked when needed, watched more than he spoke, and every now and then you would feel his eyes on you, just for a second longer than necessary. But you didn't know what to make of that. That's when you noticed the hall was slowly becoming quiet, signaling about something that happened. All eyes weren't on you yet, but they would be any second now. Minji must have noticed that he made his way towards you, waving through the clusters of gas. You okay, Nuna? If you're not up for it, I'll handle it. No one's gonna say anything if I step in. I'm okay. This is the first time a boss asked something of me. I can't ignore it. You said forcing the votes out before your nerves caught up again. You don't have to prove anything. I'm not proving anything. I'm just doing what I said yes to when I married into this. He hesitated, then stepped back, giving you a small note. The spotlight hit you suddenly, and for a second your heart stuttered, but you held the smile like you practiced and stepped forward with the mic in hand. You know your husband is watching you, but you didn't want to look up because even with all the eyes in your room on you, his were the ones that felt too heavy. Your stomach twisted, your chest tightened, something inside you whispered that something wasn't right, like an invisible fog inching closer that only you could feel. Good evening, everyone. You began even though your throat felt like sandpaper. On behalf of our family, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. This gathering is more than just tradition. It's about trust, legacy, and continuing the relationship that hold this house, our people, together. Your words flow like you had rehearsed them, but you hadn't. They just came from some place deep enough inside you that still knew how to survive under pressure. Jungkook leaned back slightly, watching you like he hadn't expected this. How gracefully you held the room, how strong your voice sounded, even in front of the most dangerous people in the city. And he didn't know. He didn't know how your nails were digging into your own palm just to stop your hands from shaking. He didn't know how hard you were biting the inside of your cheek just to keep your voice from cracking. Because outside you were calm, but inside you were waiting for something to break. You finished the last time of the speech with a small note and the room burst into applause. Your smile stayed in place for exactly 2 more seconds, then it dropped. You got off the small platform and didn't wait for the next guest or Jungkook to look at you. You walked right by the tables, the bar, and Minjae, who looked worried as soon as he saw your expression. He almost followed you, but then he caught Jungkook already walking, looking down the same hallway you had gone into. And for the first time in a long while, Minjae let out a breath he had been holding for so long. Maybe that cold brother was finally starting to feel something. Shao opened the door to a room where the lights were off, kind of dim, like nothing looked wrong at first. Also, there was no sign of you anywhere, and that's when he heard it, a sharp crash from the washroom. The door was half open, so he didn't think twice because he knew that sound, glass, and something about it didn't feel accidental. He entered the washroom and spotted you. You were sitting on the floor with your knees pulled up to your chest, trying to make yourself small. Your hands were gripping your dress tightly and your knuckles were white. You were breathing quickly and shallowly, gasping for air without really filling your lungs. Your eyes were wide and unfocused, looking around as if you were trying to find something to hold on to, but you weren't really seeing anything. Chowk immediately guessed what you were going through because he had seen panic before in others, in enemies. He quickly knelt down next to you, ignoring the broken glass by your feet and the water soaking into his pants. Wine, look at me. You're okay. He touched your face lightly, then took one of your hands, slowly uncurling your fingers. Breathe with me, alright? Just breathe in through your nose. Come on. Your chest jerked again, giving another hiss birth. You were burning up, and yet your hands were ice cold. It's just a panic attack. He muttered under his breath, more to himself now, trying to remember what while trying to think like someone who could actually do something right. You're not dying, okay? It feels like it, but you're not. You are safe. Just breathe in and out. I'm here. You tried. Your throat made a strangle sound, and then you finally gasped in a word. Minji. He froze for a second, not like he was jealous, not even angry. It was worse, way worse. It was that gut punch kind of realization, the kind that hits all at once, knocks the air out of you, and then makes the whole damn world tilt. You were here breaking, drowning, and the name that slipped from your mouth wasn't his. It couldn't be his because he had never made you feel like you could call him, never made himself safe, never gave you warmth, and now he was holding you like he cared, like he had a right to be the one helping you breathe when all this time he had been the reason you forgot how. In Jeva's right, you trusted his brother more than the man you were married to. That hit hard. But he didn't pull away though, he held you even tighter because now he was afraid, afraid that he was losing you, not to someone else but to the space he had put between you, to the silence he thought was respect, to the distance he thought was giving you room, and all this time he thought he was respecting you. But really he was pushing you so far away, you didn't even think to call his name when you needed help. Sunlight was way too bright for how heavy your head felt. You groaned softly, squinting against it as you shifted under the sheets. Wait, sheets? You sat up a little confused. Last thing you remembered, you were on the floor in the washroom. You rubbed your forehead trying to shake off the haze. Your heart still felt off like it had sprinted miles in your sleep and never quite came back down. That's when the door creaked open. You look up a little startled, and there he was, Jungkook. It's not strange to see him in your room, but today he wasn't wearing his work clothes and had a coffee cup in his hand. How you feeling now? Your brows were out slightly, instantly pulling the blankets a little higher because what he said really threw you off. You just stared at him for a second like your brain was still booting up. He noticed your confusion, the way you glanced around the room like you expected it to fade out. So he said it before you could even ask. You're not dreaming here. Your coffee. You hesitated, not reaching for it yet. You didn't know what part shocked you more, waking up in your bed or him looking at you like that. I wasn't here. I brought you here. You had a panic attack. Hope you're fine now. He extended the coffee again. You glanced at it, then back at him, then gave a dry little cough like you were clearing something heavier than just your throat. Fine, but sorry for bothering you. If I was even a little in my senses, I would have never dragged you into that. He just quietly placed the mug down on the nightstand. I know, I heard it. Heard what? That you wouldn't even think of calling my name. Your eyes dropped, your hands tightening around the blanket. You didn't need to defend it, you didn't plan to, but the silence between you made it work. You can't blame me though. On what hop should I? Your throat caught for a second, but you kept going. Is there anything at all that ever made me feel like you'd be there for me? You didn't have to look up to feel the way he finally heard just how far away from him you really were. You didn't mean to go there. You didn't plan to say all that. But once the words came out, they just hung there and it made your chest feel tight again. So you stood up from the bed and just turned around, heading for the door like you needed to get out before your emotions caught up with you. But before you could make it 3 steps, his hands wrapped around your wrist. You looked down at his hand like it burned a little, then up at him. I want to talk to you. Your breath caught because this was the first time he had touched you like this after that awful wedding ceremony. It should have felt different. You expected something, something to slam in your chest and make you feel wanted. But nothing. He slowly slipped your hand out of his grip and looked away. You're late for your office or whatever. I canceled everything scheduled for a month. You tried coming up with another excuse to slip away, but your head was blank. So you sighed, gave up, and walked back to the bed, sitting down without a word. You rubbed your forehead, hoping it would calm the mess spinning inside, but it didn't. I know what's making you act like this towards me, and honestly, you have every right to. I messed up, and all I can say now is sorry. You scoffed under your breath, not even bothering to look at him. I never really got the chance to grow up with my parents. They were always busy building the whole empire, fighting the world, whatever. I had everything, the best clothes, food, a room bigger than some people's houses. But there was no warmth, no late night talks, no hugs, no how was your day, nothing. He took a moment with his eyes on the floor like he was rewinding through years he never let anyone see. And then Minjae came along, and suddenly they were calm, like the war was over. He got their time, their attention, he got love, real love. I used to think distance was normal. I thought if someone had everything they needed, the money, the comfort, that was enough. It all made me think love was optional, but Minche wasn't like that. He always believed love mattered more. He soloed, and for once his voice dropped to something that actually sounded like it could crack. But yesterday, when you called out his name instead of mine, when you were literally breaking down in that bathroom and the only person your mind reached for was him, that moment hit me like nothing ever has. That 1 second told me everything I had been blind to. I was losing something, and I didn't even know I had it in the first place. I was living in this made up belief that distance meant strength, that giving space was enough, but it wasn't. It never was. You soloed hard because you didn't even realize it until now that you actually said Minji's name in front of Jungkook during a moment that broke you open in the worst way. You shouldn't feel bad. He deserved it. He made you feel like you had no one to call, no one to lean on. He kept his distance, built walls like that was some noble thing to do, and never once tried to step into your world properly. So yeah, if your broken brain reached for someone else, that's on him. But you still didn't know why that flick of sorry was even there. Like it makes zero sense. This is Jungkook we are talking about, the guy who can look someone dead in the eyes and end them without so much as a twitch. Cold-blooded, untouchable, hard like stone, so you shoved that feeling down hard. You weren't going to soften just because he decided to show you a corner of himself he had kept locked up. This happens to most people, but that's no excuse. You're right, not everyone's like me, but I was just too late to figure that out. Didn't realize until I was about to lose. I don't hate you in any way, Brian. Just give me some time to make up for that. What I didn't give you. You don't even know what to say. Even though you didn't say it loud, you don't hate him either. But you're not about to hand him that kind of win. So you just pushed off the bed, stand up, and walked out without a word. Behind you, you catch the faintest sound of him letting out his short breath, almost a laugh, like silence is a yes sometimes, and he knows it. Never in my life did I thought I'd see my big brother like this, not going to the office, and if he does eat back before lunch, always hovering around you like some guard dog, following you everywhere. Your deadpan glanced up at him. I can see that, and for the record, it's his decision. I didn't force anyone. You look back down at your phone, pretending to scroll, but Minche catches the way the corner of your mouth reaches up. Oh, looks like my bro does have a chance, huh? You glance up at him with your eyebrows raised. Huh? I'll think about it. Minji steps further into the room, leaning against the wall now. I'm not bragging or anything, but he hasn't tried this much for anyone else ever. If he's doing it, he's sincere, but last call's yours. I'm not forcing you either. You stop scrolling, just watching him as he pushes off the wall and walks away, and the last 30 days play out in your head whether you want them to or not. He really did cancel everything, a whole month, just wiped clean. Most of the time he has been at home, always somewhere in the background, checking if you have eaten, if you have enough water, if you're actually sleeping at night. And yeah, you never missed a chance to roll your eyes at it, because you had to at least do that much to keep your pride intact. But Minchi was right. As much as you wanted to shrug it off, you knew it. He has been trying, really trying to give you the things he never thought you needed before. Fighting against that mindset he grew up with, struggling in his own way, even if he doesn't say it out loud. It's way past midnight when that coughing fit hits you out of nowhere. You're curled on your side, hacking like your lungs are trying to escape, and before you can even wave him off, Jungkook's already sitting up. What happened? Nothing. Your ass trying to turn away, but the cuff keeps tearing through your chest. He was not convinced at all. Before you can blink, he's on his feet, snatching his phone and muttering something under his breath. In a flash, a maid rushes in, armed with cough syrup and a few other medications. She places them down and vanishes just as quickly. He carefully measures the syrup into a small cup, then offers it to you. But you grab his hand, making his gaze fall into your hold. If it's from your hand, maybe it'll work faster. He immediately looked up startled and he almost forgot to hold on to the cup, but the syrup still wobbles and splashes onto his hand. You start laughing between cups. Wow, way to ruin the moment, John. His eyes were still wide from what you just said, and he lets out this awkward little laugh. Sorry, guess I ruined the moment. Yeah, kinda did. He's still looking at you though, like he's trying to read between your words. But does that really mean you forgive me? You wrap both your hands around his, surprising him enough that he freezes. Jungkook, I was never mad at you. I was just sad you didn't say anything when I needed you to. His eyes soften and you see them start to gloze over like he's holding back more than he wants to show. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all those times I made you feel alone when I was right there. I promise one, I'll give you every damn thing I didn't before. No more silence. But if you dare go back to that old cold silent self, I'm not gonna stick around hoping you will change again. I'll walk away, Jungkook, and I won't look back. If losing you once nearly broke me, I don't think I'd survive it the second time. So no one. I won't ever go back to that man, not when I finally know what it feels like to have you here. He let out a small, almost nervous breath and his lips twitched like he's debating whether to say it. Don't laugh at me for being this shy, okay? But I love you. I really do. And I know it's too late to say it for the first time, but it's not too late for me to prove it every damn day. You feel the faintest tremble in his hands, and it's not from fear, it's from meaning every word.